I'm Melissa Overmyer with Something Greater Ministries, and I'm here with much beloved author Lorene Duquin. And she is out with a new book with Word Among Us Press, and it is called How Grandparents Can Help When Bad Things Happen. And for those of you who might not know Lorene, can you just tell us a little bit about yourself?
Sure. My husband and I live in Williamsville, New York, which is in upstate New York, closer to Niagara Falls than it is to New York City.
Mhm.
And we have 8 grandchildren.
Wow.
And I know I have been a Catholic writer for many, 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 many years. But the older I got, the more I started moving in towards writing about grandchildren,
Mhm.
and I am the author of the Catholic Grandparents Handbook. And this new book is sort of a deepening of that and an outreach of it.
Well, I have to say it is fantastic. And I personally love the book. I'm a brand new grandma. So hopefully nothing's gone wrong yet. She's only 2 months old. But of course, when you read it, everyone has had, I think, some kind of tragedy or has been touched by something. And just the practical golden nuggets that are in this book, honestly, I'm going to buy it and give it to everybody that I know. It is just filled with beautiful, deep wisdom. So thank you for writing this book. It is a true treasure. So, first of all, why did you write this book? Like, what appealed to you about writing this book?
Well, it was funny because the Catholic Grandparents Association, they use the Catholic Grandparent Handbook
Oh,
as
wow.
in their chapters. And so they asked me at one point to do a talk at their Faith Cafe. And so the talk was going to be on when bad things happen to good grandparents. And my grandchildren's house had just burned down.
Mm.
So I thought, oh, wow, I can talk about this. I know about this. I was absolutely astounded because the Catholic Grandparents Association is international. So there were people on this Zoom cafe from all over the world talking about some of the bad things that had happened in their lives and how they were trying to help their grandchildren through it. And that was really the nugget. And Word Among Us picked up on it and said, yes, let's go with this and let's do another book just focusing on when bad things happen.
Well, you nailed it. It is just an excellent book. And if someone were to ask you right now, perhaps me, what excites you most about this book? What would you share with them? And what are two or three sort of practical words of advice that you would give to a grandparent? Maybe that something bad has happened in their life. What are two or three takeaways you could offer to them?
Okay. I think the reason that I structured the book the way I did is because
Mhm.
I know from my own experience with grandchildren. I mean, we've had divorces, we've had the house burning down, we've
Mhm.
had, you know, dealing with, natural disasters, hurricanes and things like
Mhm.
that. Um, when bad things happen, it's chaotic. And so I structured the book in a way that it's not the kind of book that you would necessarily sit down and read cover to cover, but it's the kind of book, if you're going through a rough time, you can skip from one question to another, and from one chapter to another. Because when you're going through a tough time, very often you're not thinking straight yourself.
Mhm.
And the hardest thing for grandparents is the advice I think that they give us on airplanes is that when you when you're there and something bad happens, you put your own mask on first and then you help
Mhm.
someone else. So what would I suggest? I think the first thing that I would tell grandparents is to just be present, to be that port in a storm. Your little granddaughter is only 2 months old, but you're still a
Mhm.
port in the storm for her
Mhm.
because you hold her and you rock her and she can feel your love. And that doesn't go away as kids get older. The second thing I would say is how important it is to really listen to what they're saying. Now, I personally am a terrible listener. I have a tendency, I'm one of those people that's always thinking about, okay, what am I going to say next? And I'm not thinking about what the person is really saying. And I think that's one of the hardest things that grandparents can do, but it's also the most valuable. And I'm working on it. I'm working on it to get better.
Well, I find it hard to believe because that last bit, the little interview between you and your grandson, I thought was priceless. And that you were being an excellent listener, and I was taking notes on how I can be a good listener too. So I think you're excelling at your task. But if there was just one thing that you wish everyone knew about this book, is there one thing that you would love to tell somebody about this book?
I think at the end of each chapter, there's a prayer.
Mhm.
And I think that I tried to allow the Holy Spirit to move through the book all the way through because I am a big believer that our primary vocation as grandparents is to be instruments of God's love to our grandchildren. And I think that that's, if I would say one thing that they could hopefully get out of this, is the understanding that they can allow God's love to flow through them to touch their grandchildren. And that's our legacy. My grandson that was I interviewed sort of at the end of the book said to me not too long ago, Graham, how much time do you think you have left? And I said, well, I don't know. I think I've probably got, my mother died when she was 86, so I probably have 10 or 15 years left. And he said, that's not much. And I said, but it's enough. And he said, I know what I'm going to say at your funeral. And I said, oh, okay, what are you going to say? And he said, I'm going to say she loved me so much. And if that's the legacy that I can leave with all of my grandchildren, then I feel as if I have been I have been a success.
Wow, that is a beautiful statement. Well, I have to say, you were talking about the prayers. You can see my copy. It's all dog-eared, and I've got little notes in it. The prayers at the end of every chapter are just beautiful and so well chosen, and they were just inspiring to me. So I really appreciate those beautiful prayers that are in there. Well, in conclusion, first of all, congratulations once again on your new book. It's already had great success. I just want to read a couple statements that people have made about your book, and I completely concur. And the first one is this: it says, it's very insightful and offers advice that is useful for all grandparents. The individual chapters focus on problem solving for anticipated communication problems. I'm a grandmother and will be revisiting this book when needed. And then the second one I thought was great. And she said, I'm not even a grandparent and still felt the book was relevant because bad things happen to everyone. I particularly liked the how to help and questions for discussion sections at the end of each chapter. After you read it, keep it handy because you'll surely want to refer to it in the future. And I completely agree with that. So you can get this beautiful gem of a book uh, by going to The Word Among Us. You can call them at 301 874 1700, or, of course, on Amazon. And I can't recommend this book enough. And I can't thank you enough, Lorene, for speaking with us. And I would love to be your friend and your neighbor and your grandchild. It sounds like you are an awesome grandmother. So thank you so much for inspiring us.
Thank you, Melissa.